Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Happy New Year. Motto for 2025 is survive and thrive. We're survive, hopefully, until the end of the year. And we're also, hopefully, going to thrive and progress forward in this life. Today's video is about Mooney on the European coast. Well, not just the coast, but, over in Europe. Hopefully you enjoy the Wayback Wednesday, first one of 2025. Are you ready? Here we go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friend. Let's see who it is today. Alright, it's going to be Jobs. Okay. And off we go. There she stole. There's Cruise Nuts. Excuse me. There's Pinned. There's Northern. There's Anya. There's Sophie. There's Cripping. Rook. There's Lise. There's Crystal. Jericho. Tay Eats. My Linda. Sophia. We go. Zoll. Chris. Thunderbird. Let's see. Martin is a police officer. Rowdy is a male person, looks like. Sea Tripping is a doctor. Still, I'm guessing, a photographer. That looks like a camera. George is a doctor or surgeon. Is George going to win? I think George is going to win. Hold on a minute. Alright, there is Mr. George. He's got a new one for New Year's, which I'll respond to in just a minute. Shorts, which I have not been able to post on Shorts. I may also have that problem. And then he has not done a live in like a year, but his videos are outdoorsy, as you can see here, and sort of random. Doesn't post very often, but they're good. So check George out, and let's comment and enjoy the history. Alright, go ahead and tell him something interesting. Oh, and Happy New Year's, everybody. The first Wayback Wednesday of the new year. 2025 and a bazillion to go.
Right on time. Now, we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some history. It's time for the Bearded Wonder.
You're a bearded wonder now?
I'm the Bearded Wonder.
I wonder a lot.
I wonder and I wander. Now, just because of the fact that, we're looking at dates and things and events that took and happened on a certain date. January the 1st, 1999, had a pretty good significance due to the fact that you had a major merger occur. Now, over in Europe, you've got multiple countries. You've got, I think there's like now 30 plus over there. And a majority of them were all trying to operate kind of like the United States does, with a single currency. Just for the fun of it. You had Austrians who had the shilling, the Belgians who had the francs, the Dutch had the guilders, the Finnish the marca, the French had a franc, Germans marks, Irish pound, Italian lira, Luxembourg had a franc, Portuguese had escudo, the Spanish had the peseta, the Greek had drachmas, Slovenians had tolar, Cyprus pound. You can see what the problem is. There's all these different countries that had all these different types of currencies. If you went over here, not only were you going to deal with handfuls of different currencies, some countries' economics were going to be a little different than others anyway. Now, dating back historically, about 1992, the euro was established. They had a provision done in the Maastricht Treaty to participate in the currency. Member states of the European Union were meant to meet strict criteria, like a budget deficit of less than 3% of their gross domestic
Well, we
product.
don't qualify.
Oh yeah, well that we weren't even part of the European Union.
I'm just saying, we don't
Yeah.
qualify.
Yeah. A debt ratio of less than 60% of the GDP.
Again, we don't
both,
qualify.
Right. Both of which were ultimately widely flouted after introduction. Low inflation and interest rates close to the EU average. Now, with the Maastricht Treaty, the United Kingdom and Denmark were granted exemptions per their request from moving to the stage of monetary union, which resulted in the introduction of the euro. Now, the name euro was originally adopted in Madrid on the 16th of December 1995. A former teacher of French and history, Esperance Germain Perlot from Belgium, was credited with naming the new currency by sending a letter to then President of the European Commission, Jacques Sander, suggesting the name euro on the 4th of August 1995.
I mean, it's for European countries. It sort of makes sense.
Yeah. Now, due to the differences in national conventions for rounding and significant digits, all conversions between the national currencies had to be carried out using a process of triangulation via the euro.
That sounds complicated.
Very. The definitive values of 1 euro in terms of the exchange rates at which the currency entered the euro are shown in this table. We've got one here.
I'll have to find table.
Yeah, big table. All these different currencies. And then the rates were determined by the Council of the European Union based on a recommendation from the European Commission, which based on the market rates on the 31st of December 1998. So all these countries had to sit and wait to see exactly what the exchange rate was going to look like. Now, they were also set that one ECU, or European currency unit, the precursor to the euro, would be equal to 1 euro. Now, the European currency unit was an accounting unit used by the European Union based on the currencies of the member states. It was not a currency in its own right. They could not be set earlier because the ECU depended on the closing exchange rate of the non-euro currencies, principally the pound sterling, that day. Now, the procedure to fix the conversion rate between the Greek drachma and the euro was different, since the euro by that time was already 2 years old. While the conversion rates for the initial 11 currencies was determined only hours before the euro was introduced, the conversion rate for the drachma was fixed several months beforehand. Now, the currency was introduced in non-physical form, traveler's checks, electronic transfers, banking, etc., at midnight on the 1st of January, 1999, when national currencies of the participating countries, the Eurozone, ceased to exist independently. Their exchange rates would be locked at fixed rates against each other. The euro thus became the successor to the European currency unit. It graduated.
Ooh, yay!
Yeah, the notes and the coins for the old tender, now this is what gets interesting, continued to be used as legal tender until new euro notes and coins were introduced in 2002. So there was a kind of a 3-year hiatus before the euro came online.
So we set it in 99, and then we did nothing with it. I was just kidding. They were making stuff. I honestly think they should have just left it digital. They did it for 3 years.
Yeah. But this is when they started getting paper form, banknotes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that they wasted their money.
The changeover period during which the former currency's notes and coins were exchanged for those of the euro lasted about 2 months, until the 28th of February 2002. The official date on which the national currency ceased to be legal tender varied from member state to member state. The earliest date was in Germany, where the mark officially ceased to be legal tender on the 31st of December 2001.
Interesting.
Yeah, though the exchange period lasted for 2 months longer.
Oh, that's kind of nice. They're like, we're not accepting it, but you can still exchange it.
Right. Even after the old currency ceased to be legal tender, they continued to be accepted by national central banks for periods ranging from, this is funny, several years to indefinitely,
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, the latter included Austria, Germany, Ireland, Estonia, Latvia for banknotes and coins, and Belgium, Luxembourg, Slovenia, and Slovakia for banknotes only. So if Grandpa had his stash in the mattress
Nice.
and had a whole bunch of bills, well, take them to the nearest bank and turn them over. Now, the earliest coins to become non-convertible were the Portuguese escudos, which ceased to have monetary value after the 31st of December 2002, although the banknotes remained exchangeable until 2022. So the coins practically became worthless, although here's the fun part. I imagine coin collectors
Oh, yeah, definitely.
were having a field day with this. Around here, I remember there was a couple places where for 50 cents to $1 in a vending machine, you could get foreign currencies in a little plastic egg. It was so funny. I've got some money from Poland, and I've got some money from several different countries, actually. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it almost looks like a C with a dash, two dashes actually. Some say that it kind of similar to the Greek letter epsilon. However, in epsilon there's only a single dash, while Europe has two parallel lines, signifying stability, according to the European Commission. Now, the European Commission also specified the euro logo with exact proportions. Placement of the currency sign relative to the numeric amount varies from state to state, but the text in English published by the EU institutions, the symbol should precede the amount, kind of like our dollar sign.
Mm.
Now, following the U.S. financial crisis that we had in 2008, fears of a sovereign debt crisis developed in 2009 among investors concerning some European states, with the situation becoming particularly tense in the early 2010. Greece was most acutely affected, but fellow members Cyprus, Ireland, Italy, Portugal, and Spain were also significantly affected. All of these countries used the European Union funds, except Italy, which is a major donor to the EFSF. To be included in the Eurozone, countries had to fulfill certain convergence criteria, but the meaningfulness of such criteria was diminished by the fact that it was not enforced with the same level of strictness among other countries. Yeah. According to the Economist Intelligence Unit in 2011, if the euro area is treated as a single entity, its economic and fiscal position looks no worse, and in some respects rather better than that of the US or the UK, as the budget deficit for the euro area as a whole is much lower, and the euro area's government debt GDP ratio of 86% in 2010 was more about the same level as the US. Moreover, they write, private sector indebtedness across the euro area as a whole is markedly lower than the highly leveraged Anglo-Saxon economies. This is kind of when they were picking fights, saying, well, we're better than you are, even though we're both using the same currency.
No, well, we have to have a top dog, right?
Right. And the authors concluded that it is as much political as economic, and the result of the fact that the euro area lacks the support of institutional paraphernalia and mutual bonds of solidarity as a state. Well, the crisis continued with the S&P downgrading the credit rating of the 9 euro area countries, including France, then downgrading the entire European Financial Stability Facility Fund. Now, a historical parallel to 1931, when Germany was burdened with debt, unemployment, and austerity, while France and the United States were relatively strong creditors, gained attention in the summer of 2012, even as Germany received a debt rating warning of its own. Now, they agreed direct usage with minting rights. The euro is the sole currency of 20 member states.
Yeah.
And you've got Austria, Belgium, Croatia, Cyprus, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Portugal, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Spain. These countries constitute the Eurozone, and it affects 347 million people total. Now, according to the bilateral agreements with the European Union, the euro also has been designated as the sole and official currency for a further 4 microstates awarded minting rights: Andorra, Monaco, San Marino, and the Vatican City. Now, all but one, Denmark current, and any potential future EU members are obligated to adopt the euro when economic conditions permit. Now, without the minting rights, the euro is also the sole currency of 3 overseas territories of France, who not themselves part of the EU. Saint Barthélemy, Samfir, and Miguel, and the French southern and Antarctic lands. I want to go buy a penguin.
Yes, let's do that.
As well as the British overseas territories of Akriti and Dhekelia. Now, the euro has been adopted unilaterally as the sole currency of Montenegro and Kosovo. It has also been used as a foreign trading currency in Cuba since 1998, in Syria since 2006, and Venezuela since 2018. In 2009, Zimbabwe abandoned its local currency and introduced major global convertible currencies, including the euro and the United States dollar. The direct usage of the euro outside of the official framework of the EU affects nearly 3 million people. Now, outside of the Eurozone, two EU member states have currencies that are pegged to the euro with the precondition of joining the Eurozone. The Danish krone and the Bulgarian lev are pegged due to their participation in the ERM2. Additionally, a total of 22 countries and territories that do not belong to the EU have currencies that are directly pegged to the euro, including 14 countries in mainland Africa, the CFA franc, 3 African island countries, Comoran franc, Cape Verde and Escudo, and Sao Tome and Principe Dobra, again, countries that used to be territories within certain countries within Europe. 3 African island, 3 French Pacific territories have the CFP franc, and 2 Baltic countries, Bosnia-Herzegovina, the convertible mark, and North Macedonia, or the Macedonian dinar. Additionally, the Moroccan dirham is tied to a basket of currencies, including the euro and the US dollar, with the euro given the highest weighting, the heavy dollar. These countries are generally have thought to have previously implemented a currency pegged into one of the major European currencies, the French franc, the Deutschmark, or the Portuguese escudo. And when these currencies were replaced by the euro, their currencies became pegged to the euro. Kind of like, well, if we're following this, we will follow now too. Pegging a country's currency to major currency is regarded as a safety measure, especially for currencies of areas with weak economies. I do remember that there were some countries over there in Africa where, you know, you'd have to literally have a whole truck full of money, and it still would be practically worthless. It wasn't even worth the paper it was printed on. Kind of like what Germany had during the 1930s, when you'd have to have literally whole baskets full of money just to get a loaf of bread. The economy was runaway inflation. It was awful. Now, in total, in 2013, 182 million people in Africa were using currency pegged to the euro. 27 million people outside the Eurozone in Europe, and another 545,000 people on the Pacific Islands. Now, since 2005, stamps issued by the Sovereign Military Order of Malta have been denominated in euros, although the order's official currency remains the Maltese scudo. The Maltese scudo itself is pegged to the euro and is only recognized as legal tender within the order. Now, the currency of a number of states is pegged to the euro. These states are Haiti, Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Denmark, North Macedonia, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, Moldova, Romania, Serbia, French Polynesia, New Caledonia, Wallis and Futuna, Burundi, Cape Verde, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Congo, Comoros, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Gambia, Guinea, Madagascar, Mozambique, Rwanda, Sahara Arab Democratic Republic, Sao Tome and Principe, Sierra Leone, Benin, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. Yes, you're getting a geography lesson too.
What?
Double the bonus. Now, since the introduction in 1999, the euro has been second most widely held international reserve currency after, yours truly, the U.S. dollar. Now, the share of the euro as a reserve currency increased from 18% in 1999 to 27% in 2008. Over this period, the share held by the U.S. dollar fell from 71% to 64%, and that the RMB fell from 6.4% to 3.3%. The euro inherited and built on the status of the Deutschmark as the second most important reserve currency, and the euro remains underweight as a reserve currency in advancing economies, while overweight in emerging and developing economies. According to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the total of euros held as a reserve as the world at the end of 2008 was equal to $1.1 trillion, or 850 billion euros, with a share of 22% of all currency reserves in the advanced economies, but a total of 31% of all currency reserves. Now, the possibility of euro becoming the first international reserve currency has been debated among economists. Former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan gave his opinion in September of 2007 that it was absolutely conceivable that the euro would replace the U.S. dollar as reserve currency or will be traded as equally important reserve currency. In contrast to Greenspan's 2007 assessment, the euro's increase in the share of worldwide currency reserve basket has slowed considerably since 2007 and since the beginning of the worldwide credit crunch, related recession, and European sovereign debt crisis. Now, in economics, the optimum currency area or region, OCA or OCR, is a geographical region in which would maximize economic efficiency to have the entire region share a single currency. The United States pulled this off beautifully because if you think about it, can you imagine trying to have 50 different currencies in the United States? Every state makes its own little currency. Or if you really wanted to really throw the chaos into it, you also have several territories, you've got several Native American nations. Imagine every single one of them having a different form of currency. It'd be chaos. Now, Mundell himself advocates the international risk-sharing model and thus concludes in favor of the euro. However, even before the creation of a single currency, there were concerns over diverging economies. And before the recession in the late 2000s, it was considered unlikely that the state would leave the euro or the whole zone would collapse. However, the Greek government debt crisis led to former British Foreign Secretary Jack Straw claiming the Eurozone could not last in its current form. Part of the problem seems to be that the rules that were created when the euro was set up. John Lanchester, writing for the New Yorker, explains it. The guiding principle of the currency, which opened for business in 1999, were supposed to be a set of rules to limit the country's annual deficit to 3% for gross domestic product, and the total accumulated debt to 60% of the gross domestic product. It was a nice idea, but by 2004, the two biggest economies in the Eurozone, Germany and France, had broken the rules for 3 years in a row. Increasing business cycle divergence across the Eurozone over the last decades implies a decreasing optimum currency area. Now, the most obvious benefit for adopting a single currency is to remove the cost of exchanging currency, theoretically allowing businesses and individuals to consummate previously unprofitable trades. For consumers, banks in the Eurozone must change the same for intra-member cross-border transactions as purely domestic transactions for electronic payments, credit cards, debit cards, and cash machine withdrawals. Now, financial markets on the continent are expected to be far more liquid and flexible than they were in the past. The reduction of cross-border transaction costs would allow larger banking firms to provide a wider array of banking services that can compete across and beyond the Eurozone. However, although transaction costs were reduced, some studies have shown that the risk aversion has increased during the last 40 years in the Eurozone. Now, another effect of this common European currency is the difference in prices, and particularly the price levels should decrease because of the law of one price. Differences in prices can trigger arbitrage, speculative trade in a commodity across borders, purely to exploit the price differentials. Therefore, prices on commonly traded goods are likely to converge, causing inflation in some regions and deflation in others during this transition. Some evidence of this has been observed in specific Eurozone markets. This is kind of the problem that we have over here in the States right now, is that take a tank of gas. It actually restarted over when the phone fell. Yeah. When you think about the different types of markets and what different things cost, a gallon of gas here in Rapid City, well, we were just seeing it yesterday. When we filled up, it was $2.81 a gallon. When you went up by the interstate, it was $3.06. Then on the other side of the state, it's $2.34.
Some of that's just competition, though.
Right, competition, and also the amount of distance these gas trucks have to travel to reach certain markets. And obviously, if there's not that many places that are willing to reach the markets, they're going to charge a premium for their gas, which is, well, if you don't like it, you could always go somewhere else. Well, I don't have gas to get somewhere else. Of course, the one I always thought was really funny is when they were charging $3 a gallon here, and you could get it for $2.54 in Philip, which is in the middle of nowhere. Thank you, Philip. We love you guys. But before the introduction of the euro, some countries had successfully contained inflation, which was then seen as a major economic problem by establishing largely independent central banks. One such bank was the Bundesbank in Germany. The European Central Bank was modeled on. The euro had come under criticism due to its regulation, lack of flexibility, and rigidity towards sharing member states on issues such as nominal interest rates. Many national corporate bonds denominated in the euro are significantly more liquid and have lower interest rates than the historical case when denominated in national currencies. While increased liquidity may lower the nominal interest rate on the bond, denominating the bond in a currency with low levels of inflation arguably plays a much larger role. A credible commitment to low levels of inflation and a stable debt reduces the risk that the value of the debt will be eroded by higher levels of inflation or default in the future, allowing a debt to be issued at a lower nominal interest rate. There's also the cost of structurally keeping inflation lower than the United States, United Kingdom, and China. The result is seen as those countries, the euro has become expensive, making European products increasingly expensive for its largest importers. Hence, exports to the Eurozone becomes more difficult. In general, those in Europe who own large amounts of the euro are served by high stability and low inflation. Now, monetary union means states in the union lose the main mechanism of recovery of their international competitiveness by weakening their currency. When wages become too high compared to productivity in the export sector, then these exports become more expensive and they are crowded up from the market by a country and abroad. This drives the fall of employment and output in the export sector and the fall of trade and current account balances. Fall of output and employment in the tradable goods sector may be offset by the growth of non-export sectors, especially in construction and services. Increased purchases abroad and negative current account balances can be financed without problems as long as credit is cheap. The need to finance trade deficit weakens currency, making exports automatically more attractive in a country and abroad. A state in a monetary union cannot use the weakening of a currency to recover its international competitiveness. To achieve this, a state has to reduce prices, including wages. This could result in high unemployment and lower incomes, as it was in the European sovereign debt crisis. The euro increased price transparency and stimulated cross-border trade. The 2009 consensus from the studies and introduction of the euro concluded that it has increased trade within the eurozone by 5 to 10%, and a meta-analysis of all available studies of the effect of introduction of the euro on increased trade suggests that the prevalence of positive estimates is caused by a publication bias, and that the underlying effect may be negligible. Although a recent meta-analysis shows that the publication bias decreases over time, and that there are positive trade effects from the introduction of the euro, as long as results from before 2010 are taken into account. This may be because the inclusion of the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, and an ongoing integration with the EU. Furthermore, older studies are based on certain methods of analysis where main trends reflecting the general cohesion policies of Europe that started before and continue after implementing common currency find no effect on trade. These results suggested that other policies aimed at European integration might be the source of observed increase in trade. According to Barry Eltergreen, studies disagree on the magnitude of the effect of the euro on trade, but they agree that it did have an effect. But primarily looking at the numbers of what the merger occurred, how it's affected different countries, and the fact that, most of these countries work to make it as a smooth transition as possible. I think the euro did a really good part on solving financial issues. Granted, they still have to work about Brexit and figuring out how, as neighbors, they're going to work that whole situation going forward. But
can I just say that every time you said the Eurozone, it made me think of the AutoZone, and I want to go check out that store and see what they have.
It is a fun name.
We are all going to the Eurozone in 2025.
Cool. Boom, boom.
Because we can meet all of our people in the UK.
Fine. Well, the UK ain't part of it, though.
Is it the UK part? No, that's not part of Europe, is it?
No, that's what
Never
Brexit.
mind.
That's where Brexit came.
Do we know anybody in the Europe? I'll have to look.
Yeah, look for
I'm sure
Germany,
we do.
France, Spain,
Well,
Italy.
LT's in Germany.
Yeah,
So we know a few.
we know a few. But yeah, something fun to check out with the history. But again, this has been the Bearded Historian, and Happy New Year, guys.